Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me? Perfect. So, today we're going to talk about, since we're a really small group, I'd be happy to do it the way you guys want it. Originally, I had obviously planned to take you all through a presentation where we were going to look at different ad tactics. But I'd love to hear from you guys what are your backgrounds and what are you really looking out of this seminar so that we can make it more relevant. So, do you want to go from the left and okay, great. Awesome. So today we're going to look at how this might be a bit more advanced because I was going to basically say and show how you can use Facebook's machine learning to better optimize ad tactics. So we'll obviously go through it, but if there are any parts of the presentation where I'm using words which are jargon, please feel free to stop me and ask questions. So let's make it as interactive as possible. Hi. Awesome. Great. So moving on. So this was me in 2017, where I used to look like that because I used to be the global head of digital marketing for a $3 billion conglomerate, and we used to have millions of dollars of ad spend, and I used to manually basically run all the Facebook ad campaigns and Google ad campaigns and LinkedIn ad campaigns. So it used to be very, very taxing because with a lot of manual intervention, it becomes really difficult to run ad campaigns efficiently. This is me now. It's obviously because I run a growth marketing studio. We work with a lot of tech first startups and we help them scale through performance marketing. What we now do is we use a lot of automated ad tactics from Facebook's algorithm and all the other media buying tactics so that we can better optimize ads. What I'm going to go through in the presentation is how we basically define customer journeys and how do we use the power of advertising to reach out to the right audiences for companies that host events. So there is this concept of power of five. Power of five is what is Facebook's recommendation of using these automated ad tactics to better their algorithm to make the most of their machine learning so that we can run ads very, very efficiently. I'm going to go through all the principles of Power of Five today, and feel free to make notes if you'll have any questions after. We are going to have like a small time for Q&A, so please feel to ask. And of course, there's a lot of literature available online of Power of Five. So even if you had to just Google Power of Five Facebook, you'll find a lot of information. It's really funny, but this is literally Facebook's best kept secret of ad automation, which is counterproductive and counterintuitive because they should be advertising this a lot more. Because with whatever budgets you have, whether they are tiny budgets or they are millions of dollars, it's really, if you use these tactics, you have a very optimized ad campaign. So, of course, a little bit about me. I'm Neha Divanji. I run a growth marketing studio. We are based here in London. We are a boutique agency and we work with fast growing funded companies and we help them scale with buying ads for them. So, what is Power of Five? These are the five principles of Power of Five. And we're going to go through each of them one by one. And we're also going to understand what is the relevance of using each of them. Even if you're not running ad campaigns by yourself manually, what this could potentially do is it could help you in strategizing with whoever runs those ad campaigns, or it could help you also to identify what are the various audiences that you can have a look at and how do you best optimize your results. and probably even asking the right questions when you work with somebody, whether it's a freelancer or an agency who's running your campaigns. It's also about asking them the right questions and understanding, how do you really think about Facebook ads. So, the first principle is account simplification. Account simplification is making the account as simple as possible. So, typically, a Facebook's ad campaign structure looks like that, where at the top level, you have campaign where you define the objective. It could be conversions, it could be awareness, it could be reach, it could be frequency, it could be videos watched. There are various ways that you can reach out to an audience, and at the campaign level you define what do you want this campaign to really do. The second ad set is the second level is the ad set. Ad sets are where you define the targeting, budget, and timing. So generally, that was the older way of doing it, where at the ad set level you define the budgets. But going forward, I will also talk about CBO, where you define budgets at the campaign level. But if you have to just take a step back and understand at the grassroots level, how do you think of Facebook's campaign structures? Think of it as, the campaign being the grandparent, the ad sets being the parents, and the ads being the children. And you define specific information at each of the levels. So the campaign you can have multiple campaigns in one ad account, but in one campaign you can have multiple ad sets, and then in multiple ad sets you can have different kinds of ads. At the ad set level, you define the targeting, and that's the most important aspect, because you're defining whom are you reaching out to. And at the ad level, you define the creatives itself. So that's where you're defining what are the ad formats and what are the relevant creatives that the user is going to see. So that's why in a campaign whose objective, for example, is purchase, and that's conversion, you could have multiple ad sets. So you could have multiple audiences. Each audience will be unique to a ad set. And in each of the ad set, you could have different kinds of creatives. And that's what you would define at the ad level. So typically, a lot of media buyers in now as well as in the olden days used to have multiple campaigns in one ad account. So you could literally have like a zillion number of campaigns. What happens is that it's not very efficient to run it this way, simply because you have overlapping audiences, and that means what you're doing is you're using your ad budget to target same people through different campaigns, and that's not the best use of your money on Facebook or Meta, right? So the newer way of doing it is when you have lesser number of campaigns. So ideally, depending on the ad budget that you have, obviously if you're just spending like a few 100 quid a day, don't have like 10-15 campaigns. But at the same time, if your ad budgets are £1 million a month, then obviously you need X number of campaigns, but not necessarily you need like millions of campaigns to run it. So each campaign needs to have sufficient budget, and within each campaign you need to have a logic of defining your ads and your ad sets to best use Facebook's machine learning in this fashion. So the old way was manually creating multiple campaigns and ad sets, causing a lot of redundancy in audience overlap. The new way, which is the power play, is to allow Facebook's machine learning to auto-test which creative and placements drive the best results. So a lot of older media buyers used to say, great, we want to have multiple campaigns. One campaign will be only Instagram stories. The other campaign will be only Facebook posts. But what Facebook's machine learning does is it says, don't try to have multiple different campaigns which have a lot of audience overlap, defining different ad placements or defining different kinds of creatives. Instead, use it within the same campaign. So the secret and the rule is to have minimum number of campaigns, and each campaign should have unique audience sets. And then we're also going to go through how can we really test different creatives, because that's also really important, right? Because the same audience might resonate with one positioning statement while another audience might resonate with another positioning statement. And unless and until you've tested it, there's no way for you to find out what works and what doesn't. So how do you even define audiences and how do you define these campaigns? So, if you're just starting afresh, how would you know what kind of campaigns to work on and how should you define these audiences? So this is the way to do it. Prospecting campaigns are campaigns which are targeted only to fresh new audiences. So they have not heard of the brand, they've not heard of your product, they've not heard of your service, and it's to a fresh audience. Remarketing campaigns are people who potentially either come onto your website, so they've heard of your brand and they've probably clicked on a ad or they've clicked on any of your organic posts and they've visited the website. And then you remarket to these audiences and you run ads to them again so that you get them to buy from you. Lookalikes are Facebook has this really complex mechanism where you can create lookalike of audiences. And what that does is whoever has the highest propensity to buy or whoever is already a customer, you could create a 1% to a 10% lookalike of that audience. So, what Facebook does is it uses its own machine learning and says that generally this kind of demographics, psychographics, behavioral audiences are the ones who are actually buying from this company. So if you create a lookalike, it will basically start picking people with the same demographics, psychographics, infographic, and interest behaviors. So that's why it's a great way to also create these lookalike audiences to build these campaigns. So let's take some examples. Let's assume that Laura is your custom audience, Jenny is your lookalike audience, and Matt is your core audience. So custom audiences could also be where you upload specific data sets on Facebook. So it could be people who have filled in a lead generation form at some event, and they've probably expressed interest in your business, but potentially they've not ever visited your website. Or it could be that you ran a quiz somewhere online and you created a lot of leads, and then you could upload that on Facebook as a custom audience and start targeting those with your ads. Lookalike audiences we already spoke about, and core audiences are the ones where using Facebook's mechanism of choosing audiences, you define your core audience. So Facebook has at the ad set level, if you would go and you would choose audiences, you could pick up pools of people where they have specific features, right? So it could be a cohort, for example, if it's an education brand and you are targeting parents, right? So you could literally pick up a cohort of parents who have children aged 0 to 3 years or children aged 4 to 10 years. So Facebook has these different predefined cohorts, and you could literally pick those up at your ad set level when you're defining those various audiences. So prospecting is when what you do is you go ahead and look at fresh audiences. They've potentially never heard about your brand, right? So how do you find such audiences who might be interested in your product in this big wide world? So this is the way to do it using Facebook's inherent built features where you can define the location. Are you a London-based company only, or is your event only going to attract people from London? Or are you open to the whole of UK? Is it going to be specific cohorts, specific postcodes? You could be very smart with your targeting. The more targeted it is, the better it is. But at the same time, the media becomes even more expensive when it's super, super targeted. Hence, there needs to be a balance between how niche you go and how broad you go. And it's always important to have that balance where the audience is broad enough that the media is not that expensive, but at the same time, and everything that is targeted to everybody means nothing to nobody. So that's why also it's important that you define your audiences well and you look at such people. Interests could be people interested in cooking or people interested in going out to eat to restaurants or etc etc. So based on whatever is your audience attributes, you could choose those interest-based audiences and create those cohorts when defining Facebook's ads. Demographics are obviously things like age and profession. You could use a lot of these smart advertising tactics to reach to specific kinds of people who are in a specific age group, or they are, they are in a specific profession, or probably if they are, for example, moms, or if they are parents. So you could reach out to specific such people based on their life stages as well. So these are these are core audiences where in this big wide world you choose what kind of location, demographic interests, and behaviors do you define as your target audience, and you start running campaigns to them. Also, it's important to note that when you're doing prospecting campaigns, this is called generally top of the funnel, where a typical marketing funnel looks like that, which is a V-shaped funnel, where on the top you will see that a lot of audiences is very broad, right? People have just potentially heard about you, but not really taken an action. When they come in the middle of the funnel, it's when people are prospecting and considering whether they should buy from your brand or from a competitor's brand. So that's when it becomes important to see, how do you get them to finally convert, which is at the bottom of the funnel, where the pool becomes a lot more smaller. So in the core audiences, which is the top of the funnel, which is very large and people are eventually going to drop off, it's important to figure out how do you use media to run specific kind of campaigns which are not very expensive, so that you're not spending a lot of money on top of the funnel with conversion as the objective, because there's a very less chance of a person who's potentially heard about you for the first time for them to start becoming a paying customer. So we use a lot of lead magnets, and especially event-based companies can use it in a very interesting fashion, where you create a lot of lists of people who are very interested in your event, and eventually closer to the event date, you can get them to either buy your ticket or come attend the event if it's for free. So lead magnets, these are the typical lead magnets that event-based companies generally work with, or even if your brand targets children, and if you're creating a lot of events for parents, this is something that you could potentially use. Things like ebooks, where they allow you can go ahead and publish some piece of information as an ebook, which is a good read for the user. It could be guides, anything which is giving away a lot of free content, which is which is a huge value add for the user, and it's probably not salesy. That is like the secret key to interact with people, because nobody likes to be sold. It's all about adding so much value to the user that eventually when they reach the bottom of the funnel, they are ready to make a purchase decision. So again, there are a lot of guides that people do, 5 top tips of whatever. It could be 5 quick hacks. It could be an in-depth detail snippet of a white paper, which could be of a specific issue which is relevant to the target audience. And in those downloads, you slowly blend in the fact that why should a person buy from your company, right? Checklists are another great way of getting people to create these leads. Quizzes, again, tend to have very low cost per lead, because it's a quick 5-question quiz where people interact, understand, get an answer, and then potentially will come back, but at least you've got the lead, right? So quizzes, the secret to making good quizzes is that they should not be salesy. So for example, if a skincare company is doing a quiz, they should not be like 5 products that you should buy from us depending on your skin type. Instead of something like that, what would be more relevant is to figure out, okay, do you have dry skin? Take these 5 questions, answer these questions, and then get results. And then what you could do is, depending on different kinds of cohorts that you've created based on the different kinds of questions, you understand the needs that this cohort of people have dry skin, this cohort of people have oily skin, and then you put them in separate CRM lists and give them specific products which are relevant to them, and then start doing email marketing to them. So that's how this needs to be thought of, versus it being very salesy. Challenges, again, tend to be extremely helpful for event-based companies, where you get the user to do a specific challenge and they interact with your brand. So these are all top of the funnel. So this is an example of an event-based company. They do a lot of behavioral training for this concept called Heal Your Life. Isra is the company name, and these are the kind of creatives they created for prospecting, for and created different lead magnets to engage with the top of the funnel audiences. So there were free downloads. Then there was a challenge: learn to love yourself unconditionally. Then there was a quiz. So everything is around self love and happiness and affirmation, right? Because this is what they eventually sell. There was a guide, 10 ways to love yourself. And then there was a free book, ebook, which was like a free visualization. So again, you need to think of your content strategy and hence your ads in this specific fashion by understanding what are the needs of your target audience and how does your content piece solve for those needs. Remarketing campaigns are again important for people who've already have come and interacted with your company. So they have potentially left a lead in one of your lead magnets, or they have visited your website but they haven't finally purchased. So how do you use these custom audience lists to then remarket to them? For remarketing ads, you need to think of audiences based on their behaviors on your platform, on your ecosystem. So it could be people who've clicked an ad and come on to your website, or people who watched a video that you ran for top of the funnel. So you could literally use Facebook and retarget everybody who's watched at least 30 seconds of your video. So the engagement is high and it's a very engaged audience. And then for remarketing campaigns, always look at having campaigns that have a lot of social proof, or they give them a lot of trust, or they give them their key reason to buy. So in marketing, we call this RTB, where it's reason to buy. So each part of your funnel, you need to think of what are the key reasons that get users to buy from you all in that part of the funnel. So this is the way we did it, where we did like a whole mix of people who had already filled in a lead. We remarketed various parts of the product to them. So this company, whoever had potentially downloaded the free ebook in the first top of the funnel, we started remarketing ads to them based on the various products that they were selling. So this was an event-based company, as I mentioned, and they were selling a live workshop. They were selling a 2-day workshop. They were also selling a train the trainer, which was a 7-day workshop. So these were the 3 products that they were selling. And what we did is whoever had filled in a lead through that free download, we retargeted them with these different workshop ideas at different parts of the week and the month. And hence we also did like email marketing. So we also did CRM through those, as well as we took them through this whole sequential retargeting in ads. Lookalike audiences, as I mentioned, was you could create 1 to 10% lookalike of the people who have the highest propensity to buy, or of people who are already your customers. And you could literally run ads to these audiences, right? So lookalike audiences are new people who are likely to be interested in your business because they share traits in common with your best existing customer already. So again, what we did was when we had created all these different kinds of lead magnets, we literally simply created lookalikes of everybody who had interacted with these leads and filled in a lead form. And then we started creating lookalikes of those people because those were the highest interest groups, and then ran the same kind of ads to those lookalike audiences. And then we saw that our lookalike cost per lead came down substantially. The next principle of Power of 5 is campaign budget optimization. So what campaign budget optimization does is, as I said earlier, the old way of running campaigns was manually allocating budgets at the ad set level. So you, as a user, as a company, you were deciding that if my audience 1, which is defined at the ad set level, is, I want to spend 10 quid on that audience. And then you could decide that on audience 2, which is the second part of your ad set, I want to spend again 10 quid. what this forces Facebook's algorithm to do is that even if the second audience is a better performing audience, it doesn't have the power to allocate more budget to the second audience. It's logical, right? If the second audience is working better, obviously spend more money on that. Like, why would you spend money on audience one and audience three when it's not working? But in the olden way, and that's what a lot of people still do, a lot of media buyers, they would define budgets at, sorry, they would define budgets at the ad set level, and it would force Facebook to spend money on that specific ad set. So the power play is when you automatically distribute spend to top performing ad sets in real time. Because Facebook is doing it in real time, it's important that you allocate budget at the campaign level versus at the ad set level. Again, with this, you could test lead magnets or you could test creatives as well. Because then, with this complex structure, you're putting in different audiences and you're seeing in real time which is performing better. And you're testing different creatives at the ads level and then seeing which performs better. So again, this example of the same company, Isra, what they did was they created a lead magnet called Quiz, and they tested that as well, and they saw that is the quiz performing better or is the ebook performing better? So you could also create different lead magnets and test and see what performs better. Or is a free webinar performing better and the cost per lead and the cost per sign up is lesser? You could also test a lot of creatives. Again, this is a typical Facebook ad structure where you could have up to 5 text options. You could have up to 10 images and videos, 5 headlines, and 5 descriptions. What you could do is you could insert all those different text, descriptions, images, and videos and see which is the best performing creative. So at the end of it, you should be able to say that for this cohort of an audience, which has these characteristics, this kind of creative and this kind of ad copy works best, versus for another audience, this is what works best. These were the different kind of creatives that they tested. And in general, creatives in Facebook need to be thumb-stopping, mobile first, and they should be built for sound off but delight when sound on. How much time do we have? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through this presentation. In case you all have any questions, you all can feel free to reach out to me later. Automatic placements are obviously where you can define, as I said, instead of defining, I want to do it on Instagram stories or I want to do it on Facebook's newsfeed, let Facebook's algorithm decide where your audience has the maximum chance of making that purchase action. So obviously there are so many placements that are available which you can choose from. The manual way of doing it was where you literally chose the specific placements, and then we thought that, oh, you know what, Instagram is it's a $5 per lead, Facebook is $3 per lead, and the network is $1. So let's just remove Instagram from it. Let's just put it on Facebook's ad network and on Facebook. But then what happens is that signal is actually a lot more expensive because you've diverted budget on those properties. You've not really thought that the other Facebook's ad network would have that placement for $7. So you're actually forcing the algorithm to specifically place it at specific media outlets where it's actually going to be even more expensive. But if you was to switch to automatic placements, what Facebook does is it uses those signals and those placements which have the highest propensity of giving the lowest cost per lead. Auto advanced matching is again where make sure the pixel is on, and it also has capabilities of identifying additional attributes of the person so that your remarketing can get a lot more sophisticated. And Facebook, you can configure the Facebook pixel to basically use those characteristics and save all that information of the customer so that you're more sophisticated in retargeting. Again, the olden way of doing it was that you manually refresh creatives for products, but in the new way, you can literally, if as a user, if I'm a big e-commerce website, if the user has potentially seen a hat, when you run remarketing campaigns, they should see the ad of the same hat instead of showing them another scarf, which they might not be interested in. So with this, you can literally use the same audience, and the cookie follows it, and the Facebook pixel follows it, where the same person sees the same product from the website that they have visited in retargeting ads. So that's how you can create frictionless customer journeys. And I think, we've ran out of time, so I'm going to pause there.
I think we're just about there with time. Thank you so much. Like a huge amount of information in only half-hour period. Just a question that came through on Glisser. You talked a lot about the kind of different parts of the funnel. Which is the most important one to focus on first, and what maybe most people get wrong?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question. So, this is a typical marketing funnel, and the top of the funnel is where you attract a lot of your users. Bottom is when you get them to convert. So, if you're a new brand where you're just starting off, obviously top of the funnel becomes really, really important, because when a person sees an ad for the first time, they might not directly convert. But if you've been there and you have a very engaged audience, conversion campaigns become really, really important. A lot of early stage founders, I think, struggle with the fact where they say, I have spent this much money, I need results right now. But it's not only looking at performance marketing in isolation. You have to really create customer journeys with relevant CRM, with relevant retargeting, with relevant organic stuff in different parts of the funnel to make sure that they are converting and doing the action that you want them to do.
Amazing, perfect. And obviously we did run a little bit short on time there. If people want to reach out to you or speak to you or find out a little bit more information, where's the best place to do that?
So that's my email ID and that's my LinkedIn. So feel free, even if you'll want a copy of this presentation or if you'll have any questions, you can definitely get in touch.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. We've got 3 more sessions, I think, today. So if you're staying with us, thank you very much. And thank you very much for an amazing presentation.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.